Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, the podcast where we open up the space to have conversations about trends and campaigns at the intersection of marketing, advertising, and impact.
Hi, I'm Alana Ficalora.
Hey, I'm Steph Belsky.
We're social impact strategists, colleagues, and friends who are on a mission to revolutionize the industry we love.
Listen, today there's a lot of virtue signaling, greenwashing, cause washing, or companies saying nothing out of fear of getting it wrong.
Whether it's a moment or a movement, it still has to be real. It has to be authentic and aligned with the brand, not just performative. It's about the action being taken that goes along with the messaging.
So we're here to highlight who is doing it well, what could be better, and how companies can stop leaving money and the potential for real social change on the table.
Our guest today on Creative Conversations is Allison Gamble. One of our favorite questions to ask, which we're moving up to the front to tease it out to our listeners so they don't actually know what you do yet. If you can please tell us why you do what you do without actually saying what you do.
So I work in the impact and positivity space because I think that we need more positive stories. I think that we need more representation of people who aren't really represented in the media, especially because there's so much negative news out there and so many stories that really just make us feel shitty about the world. And I'm hoping to reverse that a little bit and show that we all have a common humanity and tell human first stories of people who are awesome.
I love that.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And so now we're going to tell our listeners what you actually do. So Allison Gamble is Director of Creative Strategy for Good Worldwide, a media brand, social impact consultancy, and creative agency on a mission to share uplifting stories, as you mentioned, that foster positive connections and drive real change. Over the course of her career, she has worked at the intersection of impact and creative storytelling. You are a perfect fit for Missed Opportunities for Good, leveraging cultural insights and trends to build and amplify campaigns for some of the world's most influential organizations.
Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, Allison. We're so excited to have you on.
Truly. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. I'm so
Let's
excited.
get to know you a bit better.
Yeah.
Diving in.
Here we go. So, Allison, what first drew you to doing impact work?
Yeah, so I took a course in college and I had never been exposed to any of this before, but I took a gender studies course in college and my world was opened up to how women are treated in the media and how little representation we have not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera. And it became a conversation around intersectionality. It became a conversation around identity and representation. And I'd never been exposed to any of that before. I grew up in a more conservative area and I was blown away. And immediately after that course, I knew that I wanted to work in some sort of social impact role in the women's space. And then that experience was built upon with learning about so many other causes and issues that eventually it felt like I couldn't choose where to go or like how to focus on just one. So I started to look for opportunities that were more in kind of like the marketing and media space where I could tell stories from all angles and work with a ton of different issues and ideally bring brands into the conversation because, money talks and that's where things get done. So that's kind of how I landed where I did. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure.
It's always fun hearing where people found their inspiration. And I love that so often it does come back to a class or a teacher or that one spark. It goes to show that you really just need that one spark that hits and it can start the snowball effect where you start to consume more information in space and you want to learn more and you dive deeper into these topics and then they can change your whole career and your whole life, which I think is super awesome. So I love that.
Yeah. Special shout out to Professor Trope at USC in the communications school because she was the one who taught that class.
Love that. Fight on.
That's great.
Yes.
It's like, My family's a USC family. I grew up with it. I can't get away from it. So we just go with it.
Oh, that's so funny. My
Um,
family's a UCLA family, so I like to find the Trojans where I can because I'm often on the opposite side of that.
yeah, fair. Yeah,
Great.
that's real. That's amazing. So, given what you just said about women's studies and originally wanting to
Yeah.
pursue working in areas that help women, and knowing that you had expanded and are passionate about so many different areas now, are there any issue areas that personally you would say you're currently most passionate about? And it doesn't have to just be one, it could be multiple.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously right now we're at a time where women's issues are really bubbling to the top. So when we're talking
Yeah.
about
Yes.
issues like abortion and just women's rights, and we hear all these new terms come up like trad wife and things that are just so outside of what we thought the feminist movement was progressing with. I think that just women's issues in general are so important to me. And another one that rises to the top for me is homelessness. I live in Venice Beach,
Mm.
California, and I'm faced with it every day and
Yeah.
have learned so much about it from being immersed in it. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes. Again, it's representation. I think it all goes back to representation of what these experiences are like and how people end up judging or attributing certain factors to people who end up in these situations. So, I mean, I could probably list off a ton of issues, but I think those two are the ones that are top of mind right now.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Also, what's a trad wife?
Oh, okay. Totally fair.
Wait,
So,
Steph, do you know, or are you just making fun of me for asking?
No, I think I know what it is, but I need confirmation.
Okay, great. Allison, teach us.
yes, yes, totally. Okay, so there's this movement on social media right now where a lot of women are deeming themselves trad wives. They want to kind of go back to the 1950s, let's say, and become housewives. They want
Mm,
to support their husband and be kind of like the
Yeah.
like
the
traditional.
yes, exactly, yes.
Mm,
So yeah, that's where that would make more sense as a definition as traditional wife, but yes.
that makes sense. But that's where they get the trad. I get it.
Yes, 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 yes. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, I completely support that. But, when it's kind of like, this is what a woman's role should be. I remember hearing that growing up from even friends who are my age. I'm like,
Wow.
what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
Where
so
did you grow
interesting.
up?
In Temecula. So
Oh,
in
okay.
Southern California, which is
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's in California, which is, yeah, I remember some of the guys who were in our friend group would say like, oh, a woman belongs in the home. It's like, that's the natural thing. And at the time I was like, that's not right. But I didn't really have the
You're like, I don't think
education.
this is true.
Yeah, exactly. It was something that I didn't quite have that class that I needed
Oh, that's
from
so
before. So
interesting.
And then it all came full circle. I love
yes,
it.
I'm gonna
yes.
go school those boys in Temecula. What's up?
Yeah, there you go.
My
Amazing.
goodness.
So, Allison, you've worked on many impactful projects, but what is one that you've worked on that you're really proud of?
Yeah, it's actually a super recent one, so it's not out yet. So I'm not allowed to say
Oh,
the organization, but it's a national nonprofit that is fighting to end hunger in the US. And I got to travel to Mississippi to film a video about a man who is working on a college campus and he's teaching Black students how to farm. He's taking farming and he's destigmatizing the idea of working on the land with
mm,
his Black students and the community because it's in their community it's so tied to slavery. I mean, they avoid working on the land as much as possible, but Mississippi is one of the states that has the highest output of produce being grown, but it's all shipped out of state. So they don't get any of that produce. So they're
wow.
looking to revitalize the accessibility to fresh foods and also pay students a living wage so that they can learn how to be more connected to the land, how to farm their own food. And then they're connected to nonprofits that are around the area. So just seeing that come to life and being able to tell that story, it was so impactful. It was so great to be able to meet these people who are just so passionate about it. So I'm really excited for that story to come out a little bit later this year.
That's
Oh, that's
awesome.
brilliant. Congratulations. And, talk about like flipping the script, right? And reclaiming farming for yourself, farming your own land as opposed to farming for someone else. Um, that's powerful stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes.
Rewriting the story. And also, who knew that Mississippi was one of the biggest exporters of produce? I would have never guessed that. So
Yes.
seems like it's a business opportunity as well, which we all know that's what makes the world go round, right? So to be able to do that and provide livelihoods for people and career opportunities in that way too is really cool. I love that.
Important
Uh,
story to be told.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And I think the people behind the story too, when you have just such an awesome protagonist who's just so charismatic and passionate about what they do, you're like, you were telling this story for me. I don't have to do anything. So that was really
Yes.
yeah.
awesome too.
So impressive. That's awesome. Well, you'll
That's
have to let
fantastic.
us know when it goes live so we can share and add it to the show notes as
Oh, I
the
definitely will.
secret
Yes.
work that we didn't
Yes.
reveal
Yeah.
until TBD. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
exciting.
What would you say the biggest challenge you're facing right now is?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think in the world that I work in, so Upworthy is a kind of like a sub brand of good, and it's a positivity based channel. And something that we're facing a lot right now is that brands are shying away from standing up for any issue, and it's kind of become a case of positivity washing. And
Mm,
people are just wanting to show how they can be kind. The brands want to just be kind, they want to emote positivity and like kindness, but there's not really any commitment
mm,
to solving for an issue or standing up for something, especially when we're faced with so many challenging issues right now. So yeah, it's
yeah.
like really that positivity space that's a little bit tricky sometimes.
Well, we might have to add positivity washing to our intro. In
Yeah.
addition to the cause washing
I
and
was just thinking the
greenwashing, there's
same thing.
positivity washing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? It makes me think of when you think about the mental health space, and for so long there are people that be like, well, just be happy, or like just think happy
Right.
thoughts. And that's not what's gonna solve someone's mental health. And similarly, you're not gonna solve our world's problems by just being kind. That's the base level. We all need to be kind, and that is very important. But we also need to have really big impact on some of these really big issues.
Yeah, and I think
Like
something,
take action.
Allison, you're touching on something that Alana and I just beat the drum again and again and again of, companies not saying anything, but then also that missing component of community activation, right? Like get on the ground and actually connect with nonprofits that are doing the work for you, getting their hands dirty for you, and then you're spreading more awareness, you're increasing reach of both the nonprofit and the brand and Upworthy and good, right? So you have this like full circle of giving back, and and that's always been a missing component, or I shouldn't say always, but 9 times out of 10 that's what we're talking about, is that great, you have the feel good, you have the happy moment, but then where's the follow through, where's the call to action, where can people actually get involved in these issues and be a part of the solution?
Yeah, it feels very much like a one-off. Like the stories sometimes just feel like, oh, okay, we just want to represent ourselves in a positive light, but then there's not really like you're saying, the follow through that happens,
Yeah.
that creates a domino effect of impact for the people who are actually affected by these issues. And also, I think that something that we talk about a lot is like, what is the responsibility of brands to stand up for these issues? I mean, especially,
Yes.
and celebrities too, for that matter. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
should they have to be doing this? And I personally believe that they should. I think that they're, built by the companies themselves are built by humans. They're all staffed by humans who care about these things. They're not just some arbitrary kind of like faceless entity.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
think different people have different opinions of that, which is just an interesting conversation in itself.
Yeah. Opinions and tolerances for what they're willing to put their neck out for as well, right? Because even when
Totally.
people sometimes might have a personal opinion, in running a company or being a part of a company or a celebrity or whatever, the tolerance of, are they willing to stand on that and put themselves out there in case there's, kickback on that issue? And what does that fallout look like if there is any? And like, are they willing to take that risk? And sometimes it's not even something that needs to be risky either. And I think that's where it's a great transition into our criteria that we evaluate campaigns with, because one of the most important things about that, right, is alignment. Because also, you don't need to stand out for every issue, because some of them are irrelevant to what you're doing or who you are maybe as a person or what your brand stands for, anything like that. The easiest access point at the very least is to stand up for something that is in alignment with your brand
and your products and your consumers
and your consumers. Yeah, there's so many touch points, but you can start with the issue that you are either most passionate about or that makes the most sense. And often there's an issue area that ties to the business sense for your company. And there's a business case to care about that and to step into that space. I mean, even when you look at climate, a lot of these products won't be able to exist if we degrade our planet to a certain point. So we should care. Because the bottom line, you can only keep selling up to a certain point. If nobody can exist and nobody has money to purchase anything, then where are we? Are you run out of resources to create your product? So all of the things. Yeah, exactly. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So on that note, we get in that debate all day. We would love to get into the campaign that you brought us today. So before we get into the campaign, we'd love to review our criteria for our listeners and for the rest of us.
That's right. So like Alana mentioned, the first thing we always look at is alignment.
Next is partnerships.
Call to action and transparency.
Engagement.
And lastly, optimization and amplification.
So with that, if you can please tell us which campaign you brought us today that you think is doing it well. And if you can give us a quick summary of the creative, so if somebody hasn't seen it yet, they can have a visual of what takes place.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of background, I've played soccer. I grew up playing soccer, and my family is a crazy sports family. My parents are currently in a pickleball league, and they send us photos of them winning said pickleball league almost every weekend. So that will help with why this campaign just struck a chord with me personally as a woman in sports. So this is, I'm going to totally botch the name, but this is called Orange, and it's in support of Les Bleus. It was created by Marcel, an agency in France, that they created it for women's sports, and it's the Blues, which is the Paris team. They call themselves Les Bleus, the French football stars. And basically the creative of this campaign shows a bunch of men playing soccer, and it's the soccer players that everyone's most familiar with from France, Mbappe and Griezmann, and they're scoring goals and they're making skillful passes and everything. And then toward the end of the video, the split screen kind of slides over, and it's revealed that it's actually women's teams and a bunch of clips from women's soccer games, professional women's games. And so I think what the takeaway is here is that women's sports is often judged prematurely. You look at them having ponytails and being women's bodies, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're not good. Look at that pass was terrible, and then it's kind of in your brain that they're not good. And so when you saw it from having men's heads on the bodies, then it was a little bit different, and it was just like, oh yeah, of course, look at that cool play. And then it's revealed that it's women, and it kind of puts a mirror up to a lot of people being like, okay, yeah, I did actually think that was a good play, and because I thought it was a men's team, I didn't think anything of it. So yeah, as I said, as a soccer player before, I faced a lot of that growing up, and still have arguments today with friends about women's sports. And so it's, definitely one that hits home.
Women's soccer is definitely having a moment, but so are all women's sports. And it's nice to see that they're finally getting the recognition that's deserved, because there was always this assumption that they're not as competitive, they're not as talented, they're not worth watching because they're not going to be competing at as high of a level as men's teams, when we obviously know that's bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. I think I just saw a stat yesterday. I'm going to totally misquote it, but it was like women's sports is on the way to rake in $1 billion, 30% more than they thought it was going to be for this year or something like that. It was something that I think with some recent athletes like Caitlin Clark, for example.
I was going to spearheaded by Caitlin Clark.
Yes, literally. I mean, it's been such a breath of fresh air to see people excited to go watch a woman play basketball. And of course, that doesn't take away from any of the women who have played before and not gotten that same attention. But it's a nice conversation to have when we're finally talking about her skill and her talent, and it doesn't have to really do with the fact that she is a woman.
Yeah, here's the stat. Deloitte forecasts that in 2024, women's elite sports will generate a revenue that surpasses $1 billion, a 300% increase on the industry's evaluation in 2021.
Wow.
Okay.
Casual.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yes. At 30, it's 300. Yeah, that's way better.
I mean,
Holy
it's
smokes.
insane. And it's, again, business opportunity. And everyone's been singing this from the rooftops for years, but for people to actually listen and get motivated and putting their money behind. I remember when Angel City launched in LA and they were selling out. They did such a good job with their marketing that they were selling out every single game. And then it made it so that the other women's soccer teams in the league in other cities started selling out. And now with Caitlin Clark and the WNBA season kicked off with sold out games where they had never had sold out games before. And the viewership numbers were going up. And women's sports are starting to be able to actually get TV deals because they didn't used to be able to get that either. And so even that accessibility for people to be able to watch these women compete has been, all these assumptions are based because no one even knows.
Totally.
So
I mean,
true.
that's the I think the biggest part of an athlete's revenue is the marketing deals, the advertising deals. So
100%.
whether they bring in money from people watching them or not, I think, it's like only the top ones that you've ever heard of, Serena Williams or Alex Morgan or some of the others that just come top of mind. It's just, it's hopefully just the beginning of an opportunity for a new generation of athletes that are coming into the space.
Well, and of course, NIL is the Wild West right now too, right? So that's a whole other slew of revenue that can come in for women student athletes. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah, I remember when Megan Rapinoe, sorry,
go ahead.
detour on women's soccer, but I remember hearing Megan Rapinoe on talking about it on the We Can Do Hard Things podcast about how when she retired from soccer, she was like, cool, so I have no money.
Yeah.
Because I've always barely made any money. Like the world might know my name, but I need a career that I've never done before and I have no money. And the fact that she said, I think it was in the context of the ESPYs, and she had won an award alongside, I forget who the players did one night, but it was like the greats. And they were talking about what their plans were after retirement. And they could all just, sit at home and eat bonbons if they wanted because they've made so much money in their careers and have these endorsement deals that go on for forever and all of these things. And she was like, cool, so I'm gonna apply to jobs. Like, what? Like that just kind of parallel universe of it doesn't even matter how well known you could be if you're not actually being paid properly. And obviously that goes back to what U.S. women's soccer had done to get paid properly and all of that. But
I wonder what the opportunity is for women like that, for former women athletes to get jobs within the space. Because I think of when men retire, they become announcers and hosts of shows and all of that. I mean, I can think of a few instances where I've seen a woman be able to do that. And even then, like their names, I couldn't even tell you what
Rebecca
they were.
Lobo.
Okay.
What's that? Yeah, it's interesting,
former
right?
UConn Husky.
Nice.
And there's, okay, sorry, I know I said that was the last detour, but one more. There was also recently, was it Finnish soccer team or there was, what country was it in that the men's team didn't take a pay raise because they weren't going to give it to the women's team?
That does sound familiar. And I feel
like just happened in the last week or two.
Yeah.
But it was like it's like you also need the allies. You need the men to stand up for the women because again, in the same way that in this is using male recognition in order for people to realize that the women are actually behind it, right? Like to draw them in.
Yeah, I am seeing some headlines that say that the Finnish team has announced equal pay for women's and men's teams. So if the men were the reason that happened, I mean, that's so powerful. I know that we've talked about that so much in other contexts where men step up and and fight for the women in, you know, in that same space, or just women in general, it ends up being, unfortunately, so much more effective than when women do it. So
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. They reached a historic agreement where they pay the same as their male counterparts. It means male players and female players save amount wins and draw bonuses, paying respective. I don't know. All very cool. Wait, that's from 2019. Why is this like a new thing? Okay, well, there was something. Anyways, sorry, Steph. I derailed us. Get us back on track.
So we're going to look at our criteria and we're going to go through and see how this ad kind of measures up. So the first is alignment. Is the impact aligned with the brand values of Orange and their goals? What do we think? I mean, obviously, Orange is the telecoms company in the UK and in Europe. And so it makes sense. I'm sure that they are also a sponsor for different sports leagues. But then where's the connection with this, and why women's rights and, you know, representation and all that? I wonder.
yeah, I think soccer is such an interesting way in, because it's a cultural
Yeah.
topic. It's a topic is so that has so much passion among Europeans, and especially,
Yes.
you know, French people. So I think that's a really interesting way in terms of alignment to not necessarily the brand in this case, but the people that they're trying to reach in the conversation that they're trying to start. Of course, being a telecommunications company in another country, I'm not as familiar with what Orange is trying to do, but definitely got them on the map for people that had never heard of them before. And I think it started a lot of conversations. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting angle for them to pursue. And like, I mean, I remember having these conversations with so many friends when these ads came up, and I think maybe wasn't as aware of the company that's behind it as much. So
Yeah.
Well, I think also for, especially here, right? Because it is an international ad and we don't have Orange as a company locally, unless you've seen them branded on all the sponsors, you know, the jerseys they sponsor, which I feel like that's my primary association weirdly with them, and seeing ads like when abroad. But I guess you wouldn't know them necessarily, right? So it makes sense that people wouldn't know. It's interesting. I'm looking on their website and they do have a company purpose, because I guess that's something that France maybe required at some point for companies to do, or encouraged. The way company is defined based on the French Civil Code changed in 2019. So I don't know. Anyways, they have a purpose and they have 4 focus areas or commitments. But it's interesting because there's nothing about pay equity or equality or women in here. It's committed to the environment, committed to digital equality, committed to building a society based on trust, and committed to supporting a responsible economy.
Okay.
And I imagine on their side, they're going to put it into one of those buckets, but it's still fitting into a much broader bucket, which I think is really interesting, but focusing on an area that is, to your point, culturally relevant in France of soccer is really smart.
yeah, I see that too. It says Orange, as a trusted partner, Orange gives everyone the keys to a responsible digital world. And I think that's such an interesting angle as well. It's like, how are we being responsible with how we're communicating online, and the images we're showing, which is kind of funny with this campaign, because they definitely like, quote unquote lied about what was happening in the first half of the video. But
for
the big reveal, for the big shock.
Yeah. But I think it's great. I think it's a great, like, kind of bait and switch, or whatever the right term is.
Yeah, it is interesting if you read the literal description of that. We champion a vision of a positive digital world where technology is ethical, responsible, and inclusive, and enables everyone to create value for themselves and others. Right. That's important. We're committed to using digital technology to enable a more open, fair, and secure society where everyone has the same opportunities, rights,
and that's entirely freedoms. What they did. That's great.
So
I love it.
In execution, you wouldn't necessarily initially think it could come out that way. So it's cool that it did. Next, partnerships. Okay, well, this is obviously the talent in the spot as actual players. Right. So it makes sense that the strength of alignment is clearly there in terms of who these people are. They focus on the specific players that I imagine are recognizable locally as well, once you flip the script on who they are, right? Did they partner with a nonprofit at all for this? I don't think so, right?
I didn't see any mention of one. And if that's the case, if they did, then it's definitely not like front and center. But I mean, speaking of missed opportunities, I know that'll come later, but I'm curious how far this goes down, like supporting women's sports in the long run rather than just trying to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Is this more performative than anything else? Yeah. And kind of jumping on the women's sports bandwagon, right? Or is there actually going to be that added commitment to more visibility for women's sports teams? I love that.
Yeah, and if they're equally supporting, if their sponsorship dollars are equal,
that's
for
right,
the men's team versus the women's team, and yes,
we're watching you, Orange.
That's very true. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and that covers off, and there goes our donation, monetary investment, and our follow through, all wrapped up into one. Setting them up and knocking them down. What would you say about call to action? Do you think that there was a call to action from this, or what sort of messaging are they trying to encourage from consumers, if any?
Yeah, I think it was more of a brand play to me than it was like and everyone should now think of women's sports differently, or the next time that you go to a women's sports game, remember this. There didn't really seem to be a call to action other than like, we support all teams and we support all athletes. So yeah, I think in terms of a specific call to action, it definitely wasn't there for me.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, because it's so funny. It's like if they had just had one more line at the very end, that would have taken this over the top, right? Talk about how representation is needed. Talk about how this was an experiment and, like the gotcha, the button of the ad almost, right? Call it out, acknowledge it, and then we can all move on. But that felt like it was missing for me too. So I'm glad you also felt that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it really was just a ad leading up to the FIFA Women's World Cup. I don't know that they even thought through it, as it just goes to show again, it's like that little extra thought and having someone in the room that knows how to execute this in a way that can, yes, it did start a cultural conversation, but how can you then continue the conversation and have it live on beyond that and actually make lasting change? Exactly. It just kind of played into what was already kind of this like swell of movement that was already kind of taking off.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see this being like one part of so many different series. I mean, they could
totally,
like, especially as the Olympics are coming to Paris.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, that's so true. It's such a moment to have this conversation. And yeah, there's so many young athlete stories that they could amplify. There's so many other sports that could be brought into this conversation, not just soccer. Obviously, I know that's the pinnacle for the European sports, but yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah. So transparency, I think it's transparent in that they weren't trying to, because it was a very base level, just like building awareness around these perceptions and the bias, that they're transparent in that they're not trying to do too much. They're just showing something. So that seems to be aligned. I guess, check.
Yeah.
I was just going to say for the customer and community engagement, I'm hoping that ideally we would see orange pop-ups at different games and, having booths and, I don't know, some sort of activation at sporting events where you're able to, talk about confirmation bias. You're able to have, these difficult conversations. I'm certain that that's not happening, but it would be really cool if it did. So another missed opportunity for good. There we go.
Yeah. I don't know anything outside of this one campaign, and of course that might be because the brand's a little bit less familiar from where I stand.
Sure.
But I completely agree. I haven't seen anything about how they've continued to have this conversation, brought it out to the communities, and even employee engagement. I wonder if they have any internal conversations about women's sports at their company, and like how they engage maybe the daughters of their employees or something, thinking about how to extend it, and like really bring their company into the conversation, which would be.
And then sponsoring youth girls soccer teams at the same
Exactly.
time. You could get the local kids involved, the sponsoring girls teams, and even cross promoting women's soccer games at men's soccer games, and having this almost like a real playing, even if it's an ad in the middle of the soccer game, right? And highlighting that they're just as competitive and incorporating. It's kind of like, I mean, this goes into a totally different thing maybe, but in like Philly, such a big sports town, right? And so when any of the teams are in the playoffs, you'll see players from the other teams in the city coming and sitting in the front row at the games, or they're supporting each other, and coaches and all that sort of a thing. So if you kind of, I don't know what the execution of that is in my brain right now. Sorry, that thought was not fully formed. But there could be something there too. All companies own corporate tickets, right? So if they have box seats at the men's game, do they also have box seats at the women's games? And are they equally taking their clients and their vendors to those games? Like little things like that, where it's just like, do you then, to the employee engagement, do you buy all of your employees tickets to one of the female games to encourage even them to come participate? Or do you have giveaways to encourage Orange customers to somehow, like you bring the audience to the women's games in real life then, if you're going to really like push for women's sports? I don't know. I think there could be interesting ways to play with that to draw people in to engage in those conversations. And then obviously seeing how powerful women's sports are, and then having those conversations and all of the things.
I also, you sparked a thought. I think that there's also so much with merch and jerseys, and you see people wearing the name of their favorite player on the back of their jersey, and just like having them with posters all over the wall. I think that there's something about not only having little girls be inspired by the women players, but also little boys. Like, how awesome would it be if they could, get everybody more into the conversation and give them kind of like the physical representation of these women's players, to be able to support them and feel like they can take a piece of them home with them.
1,000%.
Totally. The soccer jerseys is such a good call out. I remember hearing about Angel City, and when they launched the team, and one of the 900 co-founders or whatever they call all the people who donated money to start the team, because it was such a large group of women, was talking about how their son's favorite jersey to wear was one of the players from Angel City. Like, that's his favorite player, and he loves going to the Angel City games and all of that. So it is just as important for the boys and the men to be wearing these players and supporting them as well. It was really sweet.
It's so sweet.
I still need to go to an Angel City game, and I really desperately want to go.
Yeah, we should go. We should have a post podcast trip to the stadium.
So fun. Okay, what else do we have left?
I mean, I think we hit them all. And we also got some really great missed opportunities for good in there too. Anything else to add?
Oh, I was just going to add that it did just win at Cannes as well. It won a Grand Prix, which it's interesting to me more so only because the title of this article is that this is a turning point in women's sports marketing. And it's is it? Is it? Because I think women's sports were having their moment before this one, and this is almost catching that tidal wave in a way.
Yeah.
And I know
riding the coattails.
100%. They had sports speech at Cannes, and they had plenty of female athletes speaking at that. I think that when you look at the sponsorship deals that are coming out for women now, it's already shifting before this and continuing to shift. And so I think, especially with, there was the women's sports house from Deep Blue Sports Cannes as well. And I just think that the conversation on female athletes is so strong, and it's important to have this from every angle in every country and every sport. But to say that this spot is changing that, I think, is like, it's just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, especially
no offense, but
on the backs of all the women who have played these sports and really kind of built all that recognition up for themselves, then I mean, the ad itself is very skillful, but the skills that are required to, do a little bit of like an AI switch is not the same as all the women who have played the sports and really gotten the attention. So I completely agree with that.
100%.
Snap.
And I mean, look, the biggest outcome, right, is seeing the viewership increasing for all these sports in real time. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Recognition that they're actually getting now.
Yeah.
On that note, I know we had spoken about another AI related ad. And now since we're talking about transparency and AI and all of the effects of it from this spot, do you want to maybe touch quickly on that and why it's important to be paying attention to AI in our marketing materials and what we're consuming?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the reason that these two campaigns bubbled up for me was just like the way they traveled on social media, starting with the Orange campaign. And then now the second one is by Represent Us, which is an anti-corruption organization. It's a nonprofit here in the US. And basically back in September of 2020, they had a campaign called Save the Vote. And they launched 2 ads, each featuring Kim Jong-un and then Vladimir Putin. And they were a deep fake. They showed both of the politicians like talking, and just I think when you look at it, you can kind of almost tell that they're not real, but like if you didn't know that right off the bat, you kind of wouldn't assume anything.
Absolutely terrifying.
It was crazy. Yes. So like this organization, they're really trying to address political corruption and voter suppression, the broken election systems that we're facing, and more specifically, the rise of AI. So, I mean, this goes along with our other conversation about just like how AI and technology can like change your view of something. But this is in a little bit more of a sinister way, that's for sure. So, yeah.
So as we go into an election, keep your eyes peeled, because 4 years later, the technology's only gotten smarter.
Yep.
And scarier.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yikes.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing, I think, for us to be aware of. And it goes back to that idea of how, well, all the debates, right, about AI, but how it can be used for good and it can be really powerful, but could also be really scary when in the hands of the wrong people. So
totally.
Anyhow,
yeah,
not to leave on a negative note, but
well, I was going to say it's important that good exists, right, and upworthy exists, so that we have those positive associations with the good in the world and the good of humanity. So thank you, Allison, for all you do. And thank you so much for joining us. Where can folks learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so I am actually in the process of building my own website right now. So that's an aside, but if anything, you can reach out to me at allison@goodinc.com. It's 2 L's in Allison. Yeah, reach out to Good and Upworthy. DM us if you ever love anything that you see on the Upworthy channel. We have an awesome social media team. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed this conversation with you. Appreciate your time.
Yes,
thank you so much. Yes, I love talking about this kind of stuff. I would do it in my free time anytime. So if there's, more to do in this world, I'm more than happy to make that introduction.
We need all of us out there fighting the good fight.
Literally.
Let's shine a light, learn from those who are doing it well, and reduce the missed opportunities for good.
We want to hear from you. Let us know, what campaigns are you seeing that are doing it well? Who would you like to see us interview? And what campaign would you like us to audit?
Thank you, Allison, and to our listeners for joining us on our mission to revolutionize the industry that we love.
Missed Opportunities for Good is a production of Aligned for Impact and Love of Good.